In 48 hours, that's it. Finally, the TELUS Canadian Championship will resume. It's the second leg. We'll be counting down to Toronto FC and Forge from BMO Field. The Canadian Premier League side with the 2-1 aggregate advantage heading into the second leg. Vancouver Whitecaps return home after a 1-0 victory over Pacific in the first leg. It's going to be a fun night, and we hope that you join us for both matches right here on One Soccer. Wheeler, Wilson, and Conway with you. Let's start off with TFC and Forge first. These MLS CPL games, they brought a much different dynamic. It's been really exciting, and the first leg was wonderful to watch because Forge were hanging with the big boys. Now, obviously, Toronto FC get Jonathan Osorio, Richie Larea back into their team, which added quality to a team with some real top players anyways. But just in terms of what this means, who would advancing to a Canadian Championship final, who would it mean more to? Would it be Toronto FC or Forge based upon their standing and where they're at right now?
It has to be Forge, because Forge, this is the tournament that they really care about and that they want to go and win. I know there's people talking about, is this an upset if Forge go and beat Toronto FC? Personally, maybe my CPL bias plays in at maybe 10% into this, but I don't think that's even an upset. The way that they played at Tim Hortons Field just over a month ago, I thought Forge were there. They're ripe. They're ready for the picking. They played well in majority moments of the match. I think they're ready to go to BMO. I think that they have the squad that can really go and take it to them, John.
Yeah, I don't think it's an upset. I mean, they've been preparing for this for years. They've been so good. They've been winning competitions. They've been playing in CONCACAF League. They've been having all these experiences that are putting them in a position that they're in now. I think the big thing that they're going to be disappointed about from this game, from the first leg, is they had opportunity to score several more goals, I think. They could have made it 4. And then they give up this one late where could or could not have been a foul.
Yeah.
And they give up one, and now, it gives Toronto a lifeline. I think Toronto at home, you add a couple more elements in Richie and Oso leaders and veterans. It's going to make it really difficult for Forge. I think Forge needs to play their game of the season for them. I thought they played a really, really good game at home in the first leg. They need to do better and play better on the road to really get through to the next
You have taken part in these MLS versus CPL fixtures. What is the message to the MLS side heading into a game like this?
Execute for me. I mean, the big thing is you don't take your opponent lightly. There's a cup on the line. There's, obviously a chance to play in Champions League. There's a chance to hold a trophy up and be the national champion. So you need to go out and execute. These teams are playing like this is the biggest game that they've ever played in their entire careers, a lot of them, right? And then from the CPL team coming up to play the big MLS teams. And I think that's the message. The message is go out and execute. And if you execute and do the things that you do regularly, you should handle it.
Toronto FC coming off a hard-fought win in Houston, a place that it won for about 14 years, I believe. It wasn't perfect, but still back at it after Leagues Cup. A good way to come into this game for Toronto FC. Lorenzo Insigne will be a doubt. He didn't feature over the course of the weekend. But still, it's the off-field stuff that continues to make noise. And Josh Cloke of The Athletic published a piece over the course of the weekend stating that sources indicate that Forge, during their training in the preparation for the first leg, saw drones flying overhead of Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton. Obviously, this ties back to the allegations toward the national team programs under Bev Priestman, and of course, John Herdman before that, and the use of drones to spy on their opposition. The fact that that report comes out ahead of this game, does it cast a cloud over this fixture? Really, because if this was part of the first leg and no official complaint is being made, but still in the perception, in the eyes of the fans, people that care about this competition, what does that do?
Does cast a cloud, for sure, absolutely. I mean, I'm sick of talking about it. I think it's something that you look at this match. This is something for me as a fan I've been looking forward to, just as played against Forge and seeing that the progress that they've made, and then you're going against Toronto FC and the players that play for Forge used to play for Toronto FC. That for me is like the biggest story, and the fact that we have to go and talk about drones. This will be addressed. What's done in the dark must come to light. It will be handled at a point. But John, I don't know how you feel about.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jordan. I feel like this should be about the players on the field and the dynamic between Forge players, Toronto FC players, and the game itself. Instead, we're talking about this, and I think it just needs to be handled. Whatever goes on behind the scenes, as you mentioned, there's a study going, a report being done to see where this all leads to, and it'll all come out at some point. Obviously, there's quotes from Canada Soccer's spokesperson about what they're looking into and how they're looking into it and the information they've been given over, and it'll come out at some point. I just think this game should be focused, should be on the players.
It's a big one,
what's
man.
going on. It's a huge one. It's a huge one.
Biggest one yet for me.
But there will be a but attached to it, because really this drone story had everything to do with the national team. There hasn't been any evidence presented that, that Herdman's team is doing the same with Toronto FC in Major League Soccer. And if this actually happened in the Canadian Championship, and they're using that to spy on a Canadian Premier League squad, this is something that people are going to talk about.
For sure.
And I don't think that this is something that can just be swept under the rug and just be like, okay, we're moving on and just focusing on the game. This will be part of the narrative, especially if Toronto FC goes on to beat Forge inevitably in this. And look, you're innocent until proven guilty. I'm not casting blame. I'm just speaking based upon the report that was published. And it's interesting, the timing heading into this game, and it will have some sort of ramification as well. Want to just mention really quickly, I mean, Forge is coming into this game in a very different place as well. Kwesi Poku was excellent in that first leg. He did score a goal in that game. He's been sold off now. He's unavailable. You saw Cisse, who didn't play in the first leg. He was in a walking boot after the York United game, and there might be some of those other little injuries that might be plaguing Forge as well. How does that all factor in, Jordan?
Yeah, I think one that we could say too, Kyle Becker as well played on Friday against York United. Looked to be a little bit of a hamstring, but I know with Kyle Becker, even if one leg is tight, he's still playing in that match, and he'll probably still have some quality. I think Eleman Cisse, I don't know if he was going to start that match, and with Bobby Smirnionis' team, you never really know, maybe the day before or when you're pulling up to the match that you know if you're going to start. But he was just that Swiss Army knife, that player that could go play right back, play in the middle, finish off matches. He's very clever. So it will be a bit of a hit not to have him, but the biggest hit has to be up top, because Jordan Hamilton started the match but got subbed off in the 45, and I don't think that was a plan. That was just because maybe he wasn't being as productive as Bobby Smirnionis and company wanted him to be. So that's going to be the big threat.
What's incredible at the beginning of the season, like Poku, the difference maker, that wouldn't have been part of the conversation.
No way.
But he played that well.
He was excellent in that first leg, and again, I think it's a huge loss for them going into this game. He's a difference maker. He scores a great goal in the first leg. I think somebody else is going to have to step up. I don't know who that's going to be, whether it's Jordan Hamilton, who came off at halftime, Campbell. I mean, Oluwabi Bellew had a great first game, too, against Federico Bernardeschi. He's going to need to do the same thing again. That's going to be a good matchup to watch.
They don't need to score. They don't need to score. 0-0 would get the job done.
But the thing with that, too, is that John brings up Oluwabi Bellew, and he had Bernardeschi in handcuffs for some parts of the game, but he doesn't normally play left back.
Right.
It's because Parr wasn't playing, because he was suspended. So how does Bobby Smirnionis really figure out what do you want to do? Are you going to keep the best left-footed or top two best left back in the league out of that match and just focus on defense? It's those things he has to balance.
It's going to be great. I felt, and I'm probably wrong on this, I just felt that handshake between managers post-match. There's something cold about it. I saw it. I was like, ooh, little ice right there. In the other match, it's Vancouver Whitecaps, and it's Pacific. I'm not trying to downplay this game in terms of importance. Like, we spent a lot of time on TFC Forge there. But it's 1-0 heading into the second leg. But it kind of feels like this fixture's already done, like Vancouver's going on. The 1-goal lead seems like 10, not just based upon Vancouver and how good they are, but Pacific have scored 14 goals in league play in 19 games. And they're going in one direction, and it's the wrong way. Would that be an accurate assessment that this 1-goal lead seems...
Absolutely agree. Yes,
like a mountain to climb?
Yeah, it's a huge mountain. Going into Vancouver, they're going to need to have the game of their lives. 1 win, 1 tie, 4 losses in the last 6. They're going in the opposite direction, and that 1-goal lead, you get out, Vancouver comes out on the front foot, gets one early, and I could see this getting ugly if they don't come out and with the right attitude. The
last 10 matches for Pacific FC, 1 win, 1 draw, 8 losses, and 4 goals. So this is why, for me, spending time talking about, it's like, where are these goals, or where is that attacking prowess? Where is that coming from? Because James Merriman has literally flipped it up done so many versions of it, and it still hasn't stuck. These players aren't ticking in the right
I
direction.
thought Pacific played well in the first leg. It was a great goal by Ryan Gauld. The other X factor, Whitecaps haven't played in 20 days, sorry.
Yeah.
Since they got knocked out of Leagues Cup by Pumas on August 7th. So any rust there,
Good point.
maybe something that might come into play. Tuesday night, One Soccer, you're home for the TELUS Canadian Championship.